Good morning, everyone. I'm sure you've probably heard of this or seen this at some point. There's an essay that has gone viral in New York Times Modern Love section titled Men, Where Have You Gone? Please Come Back. And it's basically lamenting the state of dating and relationships in the world right now. But I think there's some interesting pieces of information in this essay that are worth commenting on. The woman who wrote it, her name is Rachel Drucker. She's based in Chicago. She's 54 years old, and she does stuff with intellectual property. I'm not quite sure if she's an attorney or just kind of works in that space. I tried to find a LinkedIn profile for her, but couldn't. Anyways, this is an essay that accounts some of her recent dating experiences. And something I noted right off the bat, she says, at table after table, at the nearby restaurants, there was a noticeable absence of men, at least of men seated in what looked like dates. So right off the bat, I have questions about what she's describing. A lot of times it's easy to inflate things based on what you think you're witnessing. And so if she was there on a date or like just by herself or whatever, she might have been within the mindset of like looking for certain things. So think about it when you buy a car. Like if you buy a new car, all you can see, or you're looking for a new car, all you can see is that car. So, here in Austin, Cybertrucks are popular. Let's say you're thinking about getting a Cybertruck, right? And then all of a sudden, like your mind starts pointing out all the Cybertrucks you see, and it seems like they're everywhere. There's probably a name for that phenomenon, but I think that might be happening here where like she's looking for something, or her mind is primed to see something, and she's noticing the absence of men. I have a more broader question of, is it just an absence of men, or is it the absence of people in general? So I think last month it was like 0.9% decline in dining out. Cost of living has gone up. People just aren't going out like they used to. And it's not even necessarily that everyone is pulling back, but I think people are being more discerning about where they go. There's just a lot of mediocre, subpar restaurants out there, especially the small plate places where I'm presuming this woman probably goes to, that just really aren't worth it. Like if you're paying, $14 for a plate of hummus and carrots that you could have just gotten on your own at Trader Joe's, I think people are realizing like that's not worth it anymore, so they're not going out. So I'm curious to know like what her mindset was when she like was in this space, what she was looking for, and the types of spaces that she herself is occupying, because that might be more of an answer to her question than her assumption that it's just men who are being absent. Again, she goes on to say only 2 tables nearby seemed to hold actual dates. The rest were groups of women or women alone, each one occupying her space with quiet confidence. And again, I think this gets to part of the current zeitgeist. Women spend money. When men who are seeking out stable relationships or like see themselves wanting to settle down, they're not going to spend the kind of money women think they are. It's just like, it's not worth it. There was an essay I was reading on Substack by a man that was a rebuttal to this, and he was like, I'm a guy of limited means, we go out for coffee or ice cream, and I think that's perfectly fine. But if you watch TikToks or Instagram or YouTube or whatever of modern younger women, Gen Z women in particular, like they refuse to like go on dates with men who only get them a coffee or not even anything at all. Like, how many women would be willing to go on a walk at a park? Like, I'm in Austin, like the Lady Bird Lake Trail is really nice. Like, how many young women would accept that as a first date? Not many. I'm not saying like these are necessarily first dates, but the idea we have in our minds is that like men have to spend money on women, and a good date is a date going out to a really nice restaurant, which again, presuming this woman is dating, so she's not married. I think she has a kid. She might have referenced that in this. But she's in her 50s, has a career, lives in Chicago. I'm going to assume the type of restaurant, she's not going to Chili's, right? She's not going to Applebee's. She's not going to Olive Garden. She's not getting like, the $5, $15, whatever meal deals. She's probably going to nice places where men just don't want to pony up and pay anymore because, for them, they're not getting a lot out of dating. So she's observing groups of women or women alone because they're the only ones who are willing to continue spending money on absurd things. And there's like this weird Sex in the City kind of culture with women where like the entirety of women's interactions is dining out. And this was my experience in my 20s. Like I started pulling back from women culture because of this. I got tired of brunch. I mean, there was one dinner I remember going to as a birthday dinner for a friend, and she had invited all of her other friends who I didn't really know. And I was out of work at this time. I was like barely could cover my bills, right? Like I was struggling. And the place they picked to go to was this new place, like might have been a James Beard restaurant. I can't remember. I just remember there was a $25 hot dog on the menu. I'm a vegetarian. Like you can imagine how much the cocktails and everything else were. And because I'm a vegetarian, like a lot of stuff I eat tends to be cheaper, but I have noticed, and this could be a conspiracy, I don't know, but I've noticed that a lot of places are charging what I consider to be absurdly more for vegetarian meals, and because like veganism has taken off. Like in the past, I used to be able to get a veggie burger and it used to be cheaper than like a meat burger. Now it's either the same, or if they're using like Beyond Burger, which is disgusting, they'll charge more. So it's actually gotten more expensive to be a vegetarian, which is just, I refuse to patronize restaurants like that. So I forget exactly. I just remember there was a hot dog on the menu that was $25. Cocktails were expensive, and whatever vegetarian options they had, like, wasn't doing it for me. So I like politely excused myself, made up an excuse that I had to work, and because I was running a business at the time. So I like left, and I just remember like one of the girls at the table was like, "Well, aren't you going to pay for her drink?" And, I didn't have any money, but the expectation of girl culture, especially large groups of girls, is that, like, you should pay for each other, or, like, you should just, like pony up money to participate in the social performative exercise of dining out. And it's just, I think most women are kind of over, like, the women who have their heads on straight are just kind of over it. And I think men are too. Like, this whole culture of having to dine out, small plates, like the food is subpar, and you're paying 30% overhead for like service that is meh. It just isn't worth it. So I don't know that this is a cultural problem. I think this is this woman and her specific milieu problem, but I digress. Okay. She talks about that she was the custodian of records for Playboy. I have no idea what that means, but because of her work at Playboy, she came to understand 18 to 36-year-old heterosexual men. And so this apparently makes her an expert about what men want. I would also argue this kind of gets into territory where you're only, like, there's a certain type of I don't know her dates, like what period of time that she was working at Playboy. So I think that's important. But there's a certain type of dude that would look at Playboy frequently or would participate in adult content, and it's not, I mean, I know it's pervasive, but I don't know that it's everyone. So if she's understanding the cues of temptation for 18 to 36-year-old, she's only understanding the cues in a specific context, and that context is carnal desire. It's not relationship. Like the dudes who are engaging in Playboy content are not the dudes who are in the frame of mind to like take a woman out on a date. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's like kind of my interpretation of how things work. So please, like, correct me if I'm wrong there. But there's like, she's like juxtaposing two different contexts and like and arguing that she understands how men behave, and I think that she does. She talks about how people were, wherever she was she was at a restaurant. I think someone had stood her up maybe, and so she was just like showed up, and she was sitting across from she said people were sitting across from someone on Saturday night trying to connect. They were scrolling, dabbling, disappearing behind firewalls, filters, and curated personas, and while they disappeared, women continued to gather. Again, I think that's because women like to spend money, and that's how women participate in culture, is by being present. And I don't know if she means here like physically in restaurants that they were scrolling, or if they were at home scrolling. Based on my understanding of how like dating culture works, I don't know that they're scrolling anymore either. I have seen tons of people on the rare occasions that, we do go out for dinner. I have seen noticeably like couples just on their phones, which is a whole separate problem. But like for dudes, my understanding is they're not getting anything out of like dating and scrolling. Like for them, it's a losing game. Like this wasn't my experience. This is just kind of what other like content creators have shared. But like women will get like 100 matches and a guy might get one. So like it's a losing game for them. So why are they doing it? So I don't even think they're scrolling. They've just gone their own way. They're playing video games. They're working on like improving themselves, side hustles, like doing bro things. I think they've just like kind of opted out of dating altogether. So it's not even just like that they're scrolling behind, like it seems like men are emotionally fragile and they're scrolling in their rooms on a Saturday night while women are gathering and having fun. And I don't think that's correct. I think women are gathering because that's what they do, and dudes are just kind of going their own way and doing their own thing and probably just playing video games with each other because scrolling is a losing battle for them. So why even bother? Okay, again, she says she's 54. She's been dating since the mid 80s. She's been married, mother, divorced, lots of relationships. I think part of this too is generational. So the folks who are in their 50s have an expectation of what the world should be based on what it was in the 80s. Like there's a nostalgia for the 80s and 90s that just like that world does not exist anymore. So whatever you think the world should be, like that's not what the world is. And it's completely different. She talks about how women were once signifiers of value even to other men. And they were when women actually had value. Women have nothing to offer anymore. Women, it's like a dick measuring contest between men and women now to see like who can make the most income, who has the best career, like who has the most money. Like women have nothing to offer. Women don't have skills that men want. Like the average man wants a family, right? Like the average man wants a family, wants to carry on his genes, wants to have children, wants to support his family. So wants a woman who's going to support him in his quest to support his family, not try to one up him, not try to outcompete him. Women refuse to have children. They see children as a burden. Women refuse to do housework. They see that as beneath them. Women refuse to cook to the point like they don't even know how to cook anymore. I just don't. It blows my mind. Like I scratch, cook everything, and I get so much joy out of it, and I love it. And I don't understand why women don't cook. It's just such an easy thing to do. But they don't. So it's like, okay, women were once signifiers of value because women are the only ones who can create life, and women are the ones who traditionally have raised the next generation, taken pride in that. But now women have careers. They have careers that compete with men. They have educations that compete and surpass men. Like hypergamy is real. They have their girl bosses, so they have their own businesses. They're, I posted something on Substack about this, but there's a 30-year-old who's complaining that she can't get any dates. And like you look at her bio, she's a Forbes 30 under 30, which if most people promote themselves for that. So there's a bit of narcissism there. She went to Stanford and she has a Harvard MBA and she's a coach, a leadership coach. That's her company. And she's on the board of advisors or something. It's like, okay, the pool you have to work with that is super small. Like, assuming hypergamy is indeed true, like you're only going to look for other graduates of elite universities. You're in New York. This woman was in New York. So it's like you're only looking within a small, like your geographic area. You're competing with all sorts of other women. And clearly you haven't invested any time into dating because your resume says otherwise. So, like women just have nothing to offer. And I think men have read the room, and if you're a man who wants a future wife and all you have to pick from are not overqualified, that's not even the right word, like hyper ambitious feminist women who want to compete with you, like you're opting out. Like if dudes wanted a roommate, they would get a roommate. And if dudes wanted like competition, like that's what the gym is for. That's why, CrossFit and all that kind of stuff. Like there's outlets for that. They want feminine women who step into their womanhood, who are willing to play the role. They want someone who's going to play the role of wife. They don't want someone who has the title, just the title of wife, right? They want someone who is going to be in a marriage. They don't want someone who just wants to spend money on a wedding day. Like the average wedding in America right now is like $30-some thousand. Like that just blows my mind. It's crazy. Anyways, like women aren't signifiers of value because they don't have value. Okay, so the dynamic has quietly collapsed. We have moved into an era where many men no longer seek women to impress other men or to connect across difference. They perform elsewhere alone. They filter us out. Yeah, of course. And that gets back to what I was saying before. Like, what value do they have? Like, a guy is going to show you off at work if you, like, pack him lunch and it's really good. Like if you have dudes, and you can watch TikTok videos of like blue collar guys doing this. If you have a dude who, his lunch is a bag of Cheetos and a Mountain Dew, and you have a dude who has like a homemade sandwich with homemade bread. This is something I do. I make homemade like biscuits and make homemade breakfast sandwiches, and I love it. It's great. Guys are going to show off the thing that's worth showing off. And if you don't give your guys something worth showing off, like, no, dudes don't care what shoes you wear or what dress you have on or how much makeup you've caked onto your face. They don't care. So why would they show you off? Why would they show you off to other men when no one cares? Like, they want to show off their families. They want to show off, like, the wonderful meals they have. They want to show off, like, the home you're building together. They don't want to show off your, like, $1,000 shoes, your $1,000 handbag. Like, they don't care. They don't care. Okay, so then she talks in this about some dude he met, James, and how, like, she wasn't pursuing him, but she gave him the option if he ever wanted to cross the threshold, not just to take, but to meet. I was willing, I wanted, I still do. Like, the narcissism in this sentence is so palpable. You could cut it with a knife. Like, this entire piece, as you read it, it's all about me, 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 me. I observed this. I noticed this. It's other women. It's very, like, about her. And she's never once considered at all, like, what men are doing. It's her projection of what she thinks men are doing. And so here, like, maybe he wasn't willing to go further. And the question isn't, like, oh, I've left the door open, he just chose not to. It's why. Like, if you're so great and you're so wonderful, why isn't this guy willing to pursue you? Guys will move mountains. If there's something of value that they want, that they really truly want, they will move mountains to get that thing. And this dude clearly isn't willing to move mountains. So you need to ask why. Like, it doesn't matter if you're willing, he's clearly not. So why? Why is no one curious about this? Why aren't women, like, doing live autopsies on their dates or, like, after action reports and figuring out what's wrong? Like, clearly something's going on here within girl culture, and women just aren't really talking about it. Okay, so now she reminisces again on a bygone era of the 80s and 90s that no longer exists. She says there was a time not so long ago where even a one-night stand might end with tangled limbs and shared breakfast. And this gets to a bigger problem we're facing in culture. And this woman might not understand it because, again, she's a little bit older. But there's no value. Like, okay, the most fundamental value a woman has is the ability to procreate, the ability to have children. And that's why marriage has always been so important. And because it determines how your status, legitimacy of birth, and all that kind of stuff. Like, historically, it's always been like how assets are passed down. And assets, I'm talking about like your home, land, that kind of thing. If you're a king or whatever, monarchs, like that's how they pass things down the family line, usually the firstborn son, right? So this has always mattered. It has always been important. And things changed in the last few decades where like women are just willing to just do whatever. And they just sell themselves to the highest bidder. I wish, my church, I grew up in a church and they preached purity culture. And I wish they had entrusted us teenagers with the respect and knowledge that we had, that we were intelligent enough to think for ourselves. And I wish they would have contextualized it with like the liberation movements of the 60s and the rise of birth control and all that kind of stuff. Because for me, I saw it as them imposing like a religious world on me. I didn't understand that the whole point of purity culture was protecting value in a world that had devalued it. And now that I'm older, I can look back and be like, oh, wow. Like, they were right. Like, the church leaders were right. So, you guys win. This is absolutely true. Like, we have young girls like Bonnie Blue or whatever her name is, Lily Phillips, who are sleeping with 1,000+ men in 24-hour period, bragging about it, creating it for social media. Like, there's been documentaries made about it. Like, women are selling themselves online, right? We have OF now, so you can sell yourself freely online. Many women are doing it. They think it's empowering. It's not. It's degrading. And then the thing that used to be special, the thing that you're supposed to save yourself for marriage for, the thing that was supposed to be special no longer has any value. And because then like women, like I said before, aren't willing to play the role of wife and mother, like there's no value there either. So whatever value that could be had as part of the dating process and then obviously going into marriage, like it's all been stripped away. And this is for women's empowerment. And it's clearly disempowered women because this woman wouldn't have written this essay if she didn't feel like men were missing. Okay, she goes on to say, again, nostalgia. We remember you, the version of you that lingered at the table, that laughed from the chest, that asked questions and waited for answers, that touched without taking, that listened, really listened when a woman spoke. These men don't exist because women killed them. Like, there's no version of a man like this that existed. And maybe in the 80s, maybe like in movies, like maybe in a Matthew McConaughey movie or something, this version existed. But this doesn't exist anymore because women aren't willing to give, right? And this gets back to what I was saying. And it's not even, so I've touched about like the social and cultural expectations of women, the physical expectations. There's also an emotional piece. Like women, especially like this woman, who are so wrapped up in themselves, so narcissistic, they aren't willing to listen to what men have to say. And men have been saying for decades now, like, you're pushing us out, you're framing us wrong, with toxic masculinity, all this stuff, like, you're projecting on us, you're doing all these bad things. And we've still, like, women still ignore them. And there's evidence of this. Like, the Democratic Party is spending $20 million to understand how to talk to men. Like, clearly. And the Democratic Party, I don't know the exact numbers, but women tend to skew more liberal, so you can put two and two together. I would presume a large portion of the Democratic Party is women. Women probably similar to this woman. So they're not talking, men aren't talking or engaging with women emotionally, and they're not exhibiting vulnerability because women have taken that away from men. And it's obviously clear because politically, like, the leading party that represents modern women doesn't know how to talk to men. And then obviously here's the cultural example of a woman trying to date and missing the fact that men no longer linger at the table and listen to her. She posits that maybe no one taught you, men, how to stay. And I think maybe they did learn to stay, but they've gotten so screwed over by the world that they don't want to stay. And I have little to no exposure with divorce. My parents happily married, just celebrated their 37th wedding anniversary. All of my close friends are married. I've never I know, my best friend's older sister experienced a divorce, and in that situation, she had not pursued. They had been together since they were 12 years old, not even kidding. So almost their entire lives, she had, followed him to college, followed him when he was in the army and training as a medic, moved with him, raised the kids, stayed at home. So she truly did like subordinate any professional opportunities to him and was completely financially dependent on him. So in that case, I can see, and he ran off with someone else. So I can see her being justified in that case. But something like because I don't have exposure to divorce outside of that, example, like I have no idea how divorce courts work and how they typically benefit women over men. So I asked ChatGPT to evaluate this claim for me and just give me some stats. So women tend to be awarded primary custody. So even if you're a bad mom, I think there's a case right now in California, there's a guy I've been following, a dad, where the mom has been grooming his son to become a woman. And he's documented this. Like, there is documentation of this kid being like, mommy says I'm a girl, therefore I'm a girl. And like, I think the mom still has custody of the kid. So there's like clearly documentation of women doing really bad things, but they still get custody of the kids. And again, it's interesting that we live in a world where women demand equality and women want to be treated as equal to men. But then when you go to the court system, women are reduced to their traditional roles. So they're willing to accept the traditional roles when it benefits them, but they're not willing to accept it culturally. So the logic here, women are primary caregivers because that's what moms do. And so they're the ones who are usually given the children, which means that means divorced women with children will receive child support. So you're basically siphoning a portion of a father's income in order to support the kid. The problem with that is because these laws haven't kept up with the current state of things, like there's usually no recognition of how much money women make. So even if they're the primary caregiver, because of that role, they're given some sort of child support. Women are more likely to receive alimony. And this, again, is because they've historically earned less. Like, you'll see folks in, like, feminist chat rooms, and I'm sure someone will respond to this video, that it wasn't until, the 1960s and 1970s that women could have their own bank accounts. And that was in part because of how, like, society was structured. It's not like the patriarchy was like, oh, bad women, you can't have bank accounts. Like, it was because, like, the way societies were structured, like you had savings and loan banks, okay? Like, up until like the 1980s, you had different types of banks that issued different types of accounts. And a lot of times those were based off of like owning property, having collateral, which women didn't have. And that's not because the patriarchy was like, you can't own things. It's just like women just didn't. So, I mean, it's the same way like women could go work on oil rigs and they choose not to. Like, it's just preference. And in some regards, like, yeah, maybe maybe your husband didn't want you to, I don't know. But like, I think a lot of it was just a result of culture. Regardless, okay. So women, it doesn't matter what women had in the 60s and 70s. It matters what women have today. So if women have assets, if women have incomes of their own, like, should they be receiving spousal support? Like, that's a fair question. And if you share the kids 50-50, but the mom still receives child support, well, what about the dad? Like, if he's responsible for the kid too, like, shouldn't he get some income? And if you're making equal income, or if the woman is making more, like, what does he get? Like, usually nothing. Again, division of property is supposed to be 50-50, but it has to do a lot with children. And so because of the historical status of women as being quote unquote oppressed by the patriarchy, earning less, raising children, they're usually given more. So, I mean, right off the bat, like, where have guys gone? Well, if you are a modern man, not this woman living in the 1980s, if you are a modern man, you own property, you have a retirement, you have a high-paying job, and you look at the divorce courts and you're like, okay, if something goes south, I'm going to have to pay her, for the kids, also maybe alimony. She's going to get like half my retirement or pension. She's going to have claims to the house. Like, it's not, women want equality when it benefits them. And that's it. They don't want equality of responsibilities. And so that means like the divorce court system hasn't kept up to date. And so, yeah, so men argue that favors women, and that women complain that it doesn't value unpaid labor and doesn't enforce child support. Again, I'd be curious to know like the data for this, because it says here that courts are slowly shifting towards neutrality, especially in wealthier dual income families. Like socioeconomically, I'd be curious to know what groups of people go through divorce courts. Is it, how are six income earning couples handling divorce courts compared to like baby mamas who have an actual stake in harvesting like housing and food stamps, and they don't want to work, so they're having kids basically. Like how do those systems compare, and like how is that informing the narrative around divorce courts? I don't know. Regardless, from my observation, and please like tell me if I'm missing it, because again, I don't have a lot of exposure to divorces at all. Like it seems like men kind of get the short straw there, and they're working hard, and they're not really reaping any benefits from it. So like I think maybe they don't want to stay because they're doing the math, and today's women are high profile, like ambitious women who are independent girl bosses that can do their own thing. So like again, why do you want a roommate? Why do you want another dude that you can measure yourself against? And then the same person is going to play the girl card when it benefits her and take half of everything you own. Like, I get why men are opting out. Like, they have nothing to gain from any of this. Yeah, okay, so her name's intellectual property professional in Chicago. Okay, so I want to get at what this whole essay is really all about, because if you don't know anything about the modern love section of the New York Times, this is probably one of the easiest ways for people to launch second careers. So a lot of people have become published authors after publishing in Modern Love. Like, I've even considered pitching to it because it's one of the most accessible ways for a writer to get a byline in the New York Times, I would say. And so let's dive into Miss Drucker. So again, I couldn't find her LinkedIn, but I did find a brand new Instagram page with, oh, you guessed it, everything about her publication in the New York Times. She has this page here, which goes to her essay. It goes to her TikTok, which I don't use, but oh, look, a brand new TikTok page. Apparently she coined the phrase directionless orbiting. So I'm gonna just observing. I don't know anything about this woman. I don't know who she is. Just looking at what she wrote, the tone of what she implied through her writing, and looking at her, I am going to say she is a liberal feminist woman living in Chicago, divorced, really having a midlife crisis, dissatisfied with her life. Her career is not doing it for her, so she's trying to reinvent herself. And so she published an essay in the New York Times that has now gone viral, which hopefully is going to launch her career. That is my takeaway from this. Please tell me if I'm wrong. And the last thing I want to pull up, because I saw this tweet and I thought it was really interesting. So this is a response to that essay. So she says, "Where have all the good men gone?" Well, here's what's happening. Okay, so women have destroyed men's spaces, like destroyed male bonding, criminalized attention, and you see this with all the girls wearing their skimpy clothes at the gym, filming themselves, doing squats, and like guys are looking at them. Like, of course, I look at these. I'm a runner, right? I'm a runner. I'm in the gym when I'm training for races, I'm, here and there, but like I'm in the gym pretty regularly using treadmills. So, I'm not like doing weightlifting stuff, but I see those women, I see them, that you have like these super tight short shorts where like the seam goes up your butt. Like I'm over here, I'm wearing used Nike running shorts I bought on eBay in 2012, okay? Like I'm wearing all the free race shirts I get, and that's that. But you see girls in the gym filming themselves with these like these riding up their butt. The seams are riding up their butt. You can see their butts. They're like wearing crop tops, or just like they're showing themselves off. And then they complain when people look at them. Like, if you don't want dudes to look at you and you don't want attention, like, dress modestly, and like you don't have to like fully cover yourself up, but there's like ways to not show off yourself. But if you want the attention, like, by all means, continue wearing short skirts and like skin tight. Like, I'm not even talking like leggings here. Like, some of these pants, like, I don't even know how you would put them on. They're so tight. Anyways, stop blaming men for your wardrobe choices. She talks about weaponization of accusations with Me Too. This, again, is something I didn't know about until I started like having conversations with dudes and was like inquiring, asking questions. Shocking. When I moved to Austin before, when I was still dating when I was still single, dating in Austin, I was participating in a walking group downtown, and it's a group that encourages conversation. So I was leveraging the freedom to ask anything. And so I would post questions to the group. I'd be like, what is it about, Me Too, or what is it about, dating culture right now that's so hard for you? And so the whole point of this group is you would ask the question, and then you would walk for 5 miles. And during the walk, people would come up to you and like engage in conversation if they wanted to talk about your topic. And so I had a couple conversations with guys of varying age ranges too, like, some younger, some older. And they all really said the same thing about Me Too. And because I was caught up in that feminist zeitgeist when Me Too really took off, I didn't understand what was happening at the time. And now I do. Now that I'm in a different season of life, I see how Me Too did irreparable harm. Not just to men, but to women caught in the crosshairs. And men don't want to be a part of it. Like, you've criminalized male attention, so you can't look at you. And then if they engage in any sort of activity where then you regret it, or maybe you're drunk and you don't know what you're doing, whatever, you have the freedom to blame them and ruin their lives. And this actually is really important because the Duke lacrosse team, I think, just got exonerated like within the last year or two. The woman who accused them, the lacrosse guys, and you can go read up about that story, came out in prison and confessed that it was all made up. She was a stripper, and it was all fake. So this, and if you remember, that was national news when I was in high school. It was a big deal. And so the fact that like that happened, and a lot of like subsequent allegations, like you have women coming out now because of Me Too saying like 20 years ago someone did something to them. I can barely remember what I ate last week for dinner, okay? And you mean to tell me you can remember in detail enough to bring criminal charges against something that happened 20 plus years ago when you were probably intoxicated, maybe at a holiday, work holiday party, whatever. Like, I'm not diminishing like what happens to women. I'm not diminishing that at all, but because things happen. But if you are truly victimized, like, you're gonna remember details. You're gonna remember things. You're gonna report things. And just some of the women that have come forward in the past few years reporting the allegations from like the 80s and the 90s, it's questionable. Like, why is this happening? Why are our men suddenly being put, criminalized in the court of public opinion, simply for being men, and for being men in a time when the culture was different. It's okay. I know people are going to take this out of context and be like, oh, you're an evil person. It's like in the 1970s, like Mad Men style offices where guys, like, you had female secretaries, there was that dynamic, and a guy might come up and slap a woman's behind, right? Like, it's almost like that happened in the past during a different culture, but then taking that instance and applying it to today's legal system and saying, oh, this man touched me decades ago, therefore punish him today, if that makes sense. And I think that's what we're seeing. So guys are opting out because they're like, I don't want to deal with this. This is bullshit. Love has been made transactional. Again, like, there's that song, 6'5", blue eyes, man in finance. Like, this is why, like, you've reduced men to that. And then, of course, like demonizing masculinity. Like all you hear about is toxic masculinity. Like what about toxic feminism and femininity? Because it's real. It's real. Like the patriarchy wears Prada. And there is no one meaner to women than other women. And if you need to go rewatch the original Mean Girls to understand this, please do. Toxic femininity is real. Yeah, sure, there are Andrew Tates and those kinds of people, but it's not like toxic masculinity isn't as pervasive as it seems. If anything, I think it's a reaction to all of this. Like dudes are done and they're frustrated and they're opting out. And I mean, obviously the economy isn't helping either and work and all that kind of stuff. But I think women have created a male archetype that is no longer desirable. And now women can't get the experiences and the dates they want. So they're writing letters in Modern Love complaining about it. So this is what we've done. Like women have destroyed men. So so the question here is, men, where have you gone? Please come back. The answer is they've gone their own way. They don't want you. So if you want men to come back, you need to be a woman. You need to step into your femininity. That doesn't mean you create an Instagram account to self-promote so you can start your second career. This is the type of hustle culture like dudes are kind of over. They don't want women like this. They don't want women who like complain about, when they're out to dinner. They want mothers and wives, and you have to be willing to play that role. And if you're not willing to play that role, they're not going to come back. And just to wrap this up, this should be very concerning to a lot of women, because it's not just that men are hiding behind screens and scrolling. It's that they're seeking alternatives. There was a video that just went viral of a guy with an AI girlfriend that he proposed. This man has a wife and child. This man is a grown man with a wife and a child, and he has turned ChatGPT into his AI girlfriend that he proposed to and I think is going to marry. I don't know. But that's happening. There's cyber brothels that are popping up in Berlin. That's happening. There was a content creator on Snapchat who created an AI, so it could be an AI girlfriend, and was charging $1 a minute for guys to text her and talk to her, even though it was an AI. And so it's only a matter of time before the robots come and they, replace the physical needs that women used to provide. So women aren't providing the cooking, so they're not providing the cleaning. You can order takeout, DoorDash, and hire a housekeeper to do that, okay? Or they're just going to do it themselves. Women aren't providing the intimacy they used to. Okay, they're finding obviously OF, but now robots and things in AI. They're getting their emotional and physical intimacy there. Okay, so what leaves women? What are women left with? Well, the only thing we're left with is reproducing. But oh, by the way, artificial wombs are coming, and when that happens, we're done. Like there's nothing. Like women have reached equality at that point to men, and realize how vacuous it is. There's nothing you can, when that happens, when men can procreate, have children, have an AI girlfriend, wife, whatever, that meets all of their needs, they're not going to need women. So they're not going to come back. So I think it's really important, like, you ask, why have men gone? Not where have they gone, why? And once you come to that answer, I think women need to do some deep soul searching, because we are the problem. It's not men. Cool. If you like this video, you got some good insights from it, I would love it if you'd subscribe. That would help me. And please feel free to share any comments below. I'm sure there will be many on this. All right, I'll see you in the next video.